All right, welcome back to Men Pursuing More podcasts. I'm your host, Roger Maupin, and today I'm excited to welcome Travis Rogers to the podcast. Travis, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Roger. I'm excited to be here. I think it's a great platform you have and just a great idea. So hopefully I can be of some service here to men pursuing more.
You're on the other end of it because you're on my end of it as a podcaster. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I'm just going to give a little introduction about you, where you grew up where I'm in Minnesota right now. You grew up in South Minneapolis, and you went to New Mexico State. You were a catcher at New Mexico State, and then eventually you opened up your gym, and you were a personal trainer for a number of years. And I know for the last 10 plus years, you've been a mental performance coach, and you've coached in Minnesota, now in Arizona, and you also will talk about your podcasting and hosting conversations for both parents of athletes and athletes themselves. So Travis, it is an honor to have you on the podcast today.
Thanks again for having me. I'm excited to be here. And as I said, I'm excited to be on this end of it and not have to think too much. And I'll let you do all that, and I'll just answer your questions. It'll be fun.
All right, here we go. Quick hit
All right.
questions. Your favorite all-time sports moment? I know there might be many of them, but can you think of, maybe break it down to one or two?
I think I'd have to be both the Minnesota Twins World Series. What was it, 87-91?
You got it, 87-91.
Yep, I think I went to a few games in 87 with the Homer Hankey. That was just an exciting time to be especially in the Minneapolis area. But I was, what was I, 20 years old-ish at that point. Yeah, it was a really fun time to be a Minnesotan.
Yeah, it was. I remember going to a game, and then I remember going to the parade after they won it in 97.
Awesome.
Yeah, exciting time for the Twins.
Yeah, really cool.
How about your favorite team? And maybe it's the Twins, but a college or pro team.
Well, I spent my youth years growing up in New York City. I was from 2 to 9-ish, and that was some great Yankees teams. So the Yankees were actually my team, still are, which as I lived in Minnesota wasn't that easy. Twins were second. So the early 70s, mid 70s Yankees teams.
All right, Yankees. Now you've probably been to their stadium.
I've been to both stadiums, the old one and the new one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now it's been a while now, but both stadiums. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been to the new stadium, but I've been to some games at the old stadium a few different times. How about your favorite ballpark you played or you visited?
I would have to say we'll probably get into this, but my older son spent 2 years playing baseball at Arizona State and then 2 years at Michigan. My younger son is a sophomore playing baseball at Georgia Tech now. So we've been on this kind of college baseball tour. And I'm going to have to say that the Mississippi State, the college field at Mississippi State, is an incredible atmosphere. The fans are packing the house. It's just a lot of fun. You're close to the action. So I'm gonna go. I can't remember the name of it now, but the Mississippi State college baseball.
Mississippi State. It's interesting. One of the guys I had on the podcast, I would say maybe 6 months ago, maybe longer, is a sports psychologist at Mississippi State.
Awesome.
And he loves it there.
Yeah, they have amazing sports, so he must be doing a good job.
Yeah. Great place to be. Well, let's talk about your early days growing up. So talk about growing up, not only in South Minneapolis, but you spent some time in the New York area too. And how did sports, maybe family, and kind of shape who you are becoming a young man?
That's a great question. Sports in New York City were quite a bit different than probably anywhere else, I would guess, maybe in the country. We played baseball, t-ball, those kinds of things, but and back then it was a totally different beast animal than it is now. It was local stuff. It was playing with friends.
Oh yeah.
We played in what was called the Police Athletic League. So it was, I don't even know exactly, but I'm assuming funded by police. And we had team names of Yankees or Twins or whoever it was at that time. But I was really young there. So I just remember that being a lot of fun, but not kind of something to do. When we moved to Minnesota, and this again is back in the 80s, right? So it's nothing like, it was about playing community sports. So I lived in an area that had a park a few blocks away, and all the kids in the neighborhood played sports for that park. It was called Luxton Park, to be exact. So I played soccer, basketball, and baseball for Luxton. And then baseball became my passion in high school. I played football in high school. Basketball kind of went by the wayside. Everybody was getting bigger and better, and I wasn't. So I think I played my freshman year and then bailed on that, but started playing football in high school. I think my sophomore year, I started playing football. It was, my friends were doing it, so I started doing that. But baseball was really always, I played summer ball. We played BFW, American Legion, as well as high school. But I was just talking to somebody the other day, having my kids go through this now, it's just, as people our age know, it's just totally different. Now it's a year round and specialization, and it just wasn't like that back in the day. So high school ball, again, it just friends, high school friends, having a bunch of fun. We were pretty good. Went on from there. I don't know how far you want me to go on this, to junior college. So I played at a local junior college in Minnesota in Bloomington called Normandale. Was lucky enough to go to the Junior College World Series my freshman year at Normandale, which was a total blast. They think everyone there is like, they treat you like royalty. So it was just super fun. You felt like you were on the king of the world for a little while, a couple of weeks anyway. And then
So before your decision to go now you grew up, what high school did you go to in?
Minneapolis South.
Okay, Minneapolis. So why did you choose JUCO compared to maybe going to the 4-year college or?
JUCO chose me. I actually did go to a 4-year college. I went to Guilford College, which is in North Carolina. It's a long story. I won't bore you with the details about how I ended up there, but a little too far from home, it was pretty intense academically. And I thought I was ready for that, but I was more there to play baseball. So I got lost academically a little bit. And then I actually transferred back to Augsburg College, which is in Minneapolis, or your school. And I was there for basically the second part of my freshman year. But that also, it just didn't, it wasn't a great fit for me. I was still figuring out what I wanted to do other than play baseball, right? So my idea was I'm going to go to these colleges, 2 pretty good academic colleges, and I'm going to play baseball. And I got, again, lost academically. So just in talking to people, I had some friends that went to Normandale, and they had a really good baseball program. And the junior, it wasn't so intense, the academic piece at that point, right? So it could be baseball first, academic second. I'm not by any means saying that's the way it should be, but that's the way it was. So I did well enough then at Normandale for a couple of years to then be able to go on from there to New Mexico State.
I can relate to you at JUCO because I went to play basketball at JUCO, and it was like basketball first. It's like academics. I think a lot of the guys were there where it's like, yeah, we're here for sports. Then we're going to go on to maybe a D1, D2 school, but we're here for sports first, not our academics. So we'll make it through our academics, but hey, we're here for sports for the 2 years here at the JUCO.
Which I think is great if you don't really know what you want to do and you're trying to figure it out. So it ended up being a great spot for me to get a little bit better bearings on what I might want to do academically when I went on to New Mexico State.
So you were at JUCO, and then when you were there a freshman year, what a way to step in. And you went to the JUCO World Series?
Junior College World Series in Grand Junction, Colorado. And again, it was like the town shuts down for the thing. And it's fans outside your hotel and when you get out of your vans. And it was incredible. It was so much fun. And then sadly, my junior year, we were 1 game away from going back to the Junior College World Series. But again, a great run. Had a great coach there, Joe Ross, who ended up leaving Normandale. I think he went to the University of Washington as an assistant coach, and now he's a scout for the Seattle Mariners, I believe. But a great coach and understood the environment of junior college baseball, had all these really good players that just academically were, again, for lack of a better way to say it, we're trying to figure it out, or probably not that interested, let's be honest, in the academic piece of it. So we had all these kind of guys that couldn't get into the University of Minnesota, or then you know how Minnesota, and back then the University of Minnesota was only Division I. So if you played baseball and you were pretty good in Minnesota and you weren't getting recruited by anybody else, it was either University of Minnesota, or you could go to a smaller school, Division II, Division III, or junior college was a great place to go if you wanted to play Division I baseball. So there was quite a few guys off of Normandale that ended up going to other colleges. I know NC State, our third baseman went to NC State. I won't bore you with all that, but it was a great fit.
Then you transitioned to get recruited by New Mexico State. So why New Mexico State? Because I'm sure you were recruited by some other schools besides New Mexico State, but you were talking about when you first got out of high school, you went all the way to, I believe, South Carolina, North Carolina?
North Carolina, Guilford College in North Carolina, which, again, I didn't want to get into the weeds of it, but my dad was from that area.
Okay.
Knew some coaches in that area. At the time, I thought, I want to go south. I want to get away from Minnesota, play somewhere where it's warmer. Again, forgot to check off the box of this is a really good academic institution, and I'm going to have to bust my butt doing that. So that didn't work out. At Normandale, it was random how I ended up in New Mexico State. I wasn't getting super recruited. Some smaller schools, Texas Lutheran, University of Minnesota Duluth, some kind of northern Minnesota schools, but nothing major. But our third baseman, who got recruited by North Carolina State, it's a long story, but the guy that recruited him was an assistant coach at North Carolina State, saw our third baseman play our freshman year at the Junior College World Series. So there's even these southern schools, Division I, they're not coming to Minnesota to look at junior college players. So that was a big deal, going to play at the Junior College World Series. And back then, of course, there wasn't video, there wasn't Twitter and all these other places guys could see. So they actually had to come see you, or in a roundabout way. So they saw this third baseman that went to North Carolina State. The guy that recruited him at North Carolina State, the next year took the job at New Mexico State, the head coaching job. And he had seen me play as a freshman. Our coach at Normandale talked to him. Boom, I go down there, do a tryout / visit, and I end up there. So that's how a lot of the stuff happened back then. It's totally different now. So
That's
totally
different.
Yeah.
So you were a catcher at New Mexico State, right? Growing up, you were a catcher.
Yeah.
Looking back at your college career, you already mentioned at your JUCO, but New Mexico State, what are some of your biggest highlights, but maybe any kind of challenges you had to go through?
My first year, so I was there 2 years. Junior year was my first year. Junior year, we had a great team, senior led. Highlights were we were an independent team. So we basically played everybody. So we traveled into Texas and played TCU, Texas Tech. We traveled here to Arizona and played Arizona State. I think the highlight was playing probably here at Arizona State, because they had great teams back then. And we beat them, if I'm not mistaken, like 2 out of 3 games over a weekend. And that was super fun. We had a really good team. It was really hard to make the NCAAs. And I don't even remember. Now it's 64 teams make it. I'm not sure if that was the case back then. But as an independent and being New Mexico State, we thought we might actually get an invite to the regionals, they call it, which is the top 64 teams in baseball. Didn't happen. So that whole year was fantastic, but it was mostly senior led. Most of the position players were seniors. Most of the better pitchers were seniors. They all, of course, graduated or got drafted or whatever. And then my senior year, team captain named the captain, and we were pretty bad. And so it was actually, my senior year was really rough, and I struggled a lot with the mental game. So that was my first taste of the mental game, which now is my job. But it was really hard as a captain, as somebody wanting to get drafted and struggling myself, and our team struggled, and I took a lot of the weight and the expectations and put them on my shoulders and just couldn't get out of my own way. Nobody else's fault but my own. It just ate it all. So my senior year was really a blur. I tell anybody who listens, but especially my 2 kids who play college baseball, just be in the present moment. Even when it's not going your way, work your way through it. I went into this ball, right? And so again, that was my first taste of the mental game. So there was highs in it, but there were certainly lows. And I think that's the case for pretty much any college athlete, anybody who plays sports long enough, that's how it's going to be.
You think of your identity was you're the captain and then your performance, and not just your performance, maybe the team's performance. So the team's not performing very well. So you put your identity on that, and then all of a sudden you're not feeling real good about the team performance. And so that can affect your performance. And then you're the captain as well. And then that added pressure as the captain of your senior year.
Yeah. And I just didn't have the tools, and mental performance wasn't really even a thing then, right? I did have an assistant coach that I would lean on, but his basic thing was you just got to hang in there. I can't remember, it was a few weeks, a month into my senior season, and I was like, I don't even know if I can finish this season. And luckily he talked me through that, but still I felt the weight, it felt like the weight of the world, and you don't have a big picture view at that point. And again, not people that I could help me navigate that. Again, it was many years later where I started to really get into the mental performance work, but that was a big thing I thought about when I did get into mental performance work, about how basically I had a year and I never played baseball after that. I didn't want any part of it. And this had been something of my life for 20 years that I loved. So I didn't want that for my kids and for anybody else in any kind of sport. That's not why we do it, right? To this day, that's a driving factor in my work.
Yeah, we'll get to that too, because I know your transition now from New Mexico State, you majored in journalism.
Yep.
And then you became a personal trainer. Tell us about why personal trainer, and then eventually you would actually open up your own gym too.
Yep. So journalism just seemed like I like sports. The idea was I was going to be a sportscaster. So right when I got to New Mexico State, I got into that. But through that, what you learn is in sportscasting, where you're going to start off is like the lowest totem pole, middle of nowhere, unless you know somebody, middle of nowhere. So as I was going through that, somewhere in there, I just started to get into health and fitness. And then, so the last kind of year, even though I was doing journalism, I started to take some anatomy classes, kinesiology. I started to try to help a little bit with the strength program. So back in those days, there was a strength coach at New Mexico State, but he was the football strength coach. We didn't have strength coaches for every specific team like they do now. So he was the football guy. So I was like, I don't know if that's the right way to train, but I was always into training. So that really took me into these kinesiology, exercise physiology classes. And then the fall semester I was doing, my last semester there, this was after baseball was over. I still had to do another semester to get some more credits. But in journalism, they had a broadcasting, a TV station on campus. So I was there for 2 or 3 hours a day. And I was also helping coach with the baseball team in the fall, but also able to take a bunch of classes outside of journalism. And that really became my passion. So then when I moved back into Minnesota, I started to try to find jobs in that area. And you start off at a big gym basically as a do-it-all kind of person. You're picking up locker rooms, you're giving people tours, but with that also doing some personal training instruction. And then I get certified in personal training. And the place I worked at, which back then was called Bally's, had a great actually personal training kind of manager. And you would go through a class that he had for all the personal trainers. And so I just got into it. And that's when personal training was really taking off. So there was a lot of educational stuff. There was weekend workshops you could go to, all kinds of different stuff. So that's how I got into that, at kind of a big box gym. And then myself and another trainer there decided we wanted to open our own place. So I was there probably, I can't remember exactly, 8 years or so at Bally's. Then we decided we wanted to open our own personal training studio, found a place, put the money down, got the equipment, painted it, and started our own thing from there. And I did that for 20, 25 years, something like that. Yeah. So that was how I was making a living. And then I got into mental performance work down the road a little bit.
So tell us about going into your own with a partner. It can be challenging. Instead of you starting it, now you have a partner and you're starting this business. What are some lessons you learned stepping into business ownership and then also having a partner?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think most of the things, we were really good friends. We had a sense of what we both wanted out of it and what we wanted to give to it. Neither of us were business people. So what we did was we found a place basically that we could fund it and still make money if it was just the two of us working there. So it's a pretty easy business model, right? You buy a bunch of equipment, you get clients, you train them. And so it wasn't like a lot of businesses where you're having to get product and do whatever the business thing is. And we knew we could make money and be on our own just with the two of us working there. We did hire some trainers. Sometimes that worked out great. Sometimes it didn't. We were by this time set in our ways of how we thought things should be done, the proper way to train people, the proper way to treat people. So sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't. I think at some point for both myself and my partner, our kind of goals of what it should look like going forward, we went in different directions, and that was really hard for a while. And then I actually ended up selling him my portion of the business, and I opened a new personal training studio, this time in conjunction with another partner who owned a club baseball facility. So that was a whole new thing. So basically I personal trained during the day, and then kids, youth baseball players would come in the late after school evenings and use it as a baseball facility. So that seemed like a great idea also. And again, another great friend of mine. But I'm working with adult clients. I'll tell you the one problem there. I'm working with adult clients, and I like things how I like them, cleanliness, all these different things. And then a bunch of 10 to 17-year-olds are coming in the afternoons, evenings, and they don't care about cleanliness, which I totally get. None of us did, right? So I would walk in the next morning and be like, oh my gosh, it looks like a storm went through here. And it was a storm. It was 100 12-year-olds. So that was, again, just something that I went through. But that was a great place for me and my family. It was about 3 blocks from our house. My kids are now like 12 and 14 years old, love working out, love baseball. And we got a place we can just go stick the key in the door and we have everything we need. The trade-off was definitely worth it. And so that's where I went from one ownership of a place to another with a whole new partner.
Wow, what a transition. Yeah, from having a partner and then now transitioning not only now as a trainer now, but now as what you ever have a passion for is baseball. And now you get to train. And I know you said, what, 10 to 17-year-olds was your age group?
Yep. So they played for a club baseball program. So they were coming in and doing their strength training thing, which I would lead from time to time. I was separate from the club baseball, although I coached for that club baseball team and my kids played for that club baseball team. And it was I'm still great friends with the guy that owns that. He now has a few facilities. His main one is in Woodbury. Then Paul Widener works for the same Great Lakes Baseball Academy, works for Brian Bamenek, who is the owner, who's a great friend of mine. So it was a great thing. And I'll just throw this in there. My coaching for them and doing some of the strength work, and I would go up there and I would run their hitting sessions and a catching thing on the weekends and do these different things. And so my wife and I never had to pay for club baseball, which, as anybody knows out there, that's a pretty big deal. It was nice to have that trade-off. I was obviously summers and falls traveling all the time as club baseball is, but it was a ton of fun. I still have players that I coach that reach out to me, and now I can turn on college baseball on the weekend and about every other game I can scroll to, and I know a kid or coach the kid or watch the kid play. And so it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool. All these kids that you've had that opportunity to work with, and then you get a chance to see it live, not only through high school, but now at the college level. And I assume probably some players that even went beyond the college level.
Yeah, some professionals as well.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun for sure.
That's really cool. Let's talk about your mental performance journey. Now you've been in it for, it sounds like 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Maybe share a little bit more. You shared a little bit about what drew you to that space and what keeps you passionate about it today, about that kind of the mental performance part of the game.
Yeah. What drew me to it was when my oldest son was 9, 10 years old, and things had changed already. It was no longer you're going down to the local park to play with your friends. It had already become different levels. There was actually where we played in Shoreview, the coaches would draft players. So it had become pretty serious. Even at 9 and 10 years old, it had starting to get a little, and club baseball was starting to grow really about 10 years ago or so. And what I saw on the field was kids, like I talked about my journey at New Mexico State, like the weight of the world on their shoulders, the expectations that they felt, the pressure that they felt. And I was like, holy cow, this isn't supposed to how it's supposed to be at 9 and 10 years old. So I started to really get into the mental game at that point by reading basically anything I could find. And then there was a bunch of books. Ken Ravizza, who is the godfather of baseball sports psychology, had a great book. So got into that, a coaching.
What was the name of his book?
I'll think of it. I always brain fart on it. Ken Ravizza, and it's.
Yeah, I've heard the book.
It'll come to me. I actually have a shelf of books right here, and I don't have that one on the shelf. I should. I actually just ordered another copy of it too, and I just can't think of the name because I gave my younger son my copy, but it'll come to me. But a great book. There was a bunch of them. Brian Kane got into the baseball world, who actually studied under Ken Ravizza. So a bunch of great books. Okay. But at some point, and my biggest thing was like, how can we just keep this fun for the kids? And what does that look like? I understand that they want to perform well. They want to have success. They want to do well. They want to get better at this game. But beating yourself up after you make an out isn't the way to do it, right? So that's where it really started. And then probably, I think 5 years into that, 4 or 5 years, I had read every book I could find and watched every video I could pull up on YouTube, and decided to go back and get my master's degree at the University of Minnesota. So my master's is in sports and exercise science, but the emphasis is on sports psychology. So I found a program where you could basically just design your own classes that you wanted to take, which was in this programming. And that really lit a new fire. It was cool to be around 21, 22-year-olds and see their passion for it. So then I came out of that and I really started to slow down the personal training end of it and started to really get into the mental performance end of it. And then we moved down here from Minnesota to Arizona 3 years ago, and I stopped personal training altogether and just now do the mental performance work as well as the couple podcasts. Maybe we'll get into this. I wrote a book during COVID, basically called Parenting Athletic Kids. So I didn't intend to write a book at the time, but there wasn't a lot of other things to do. So I was just putting notes down, like thinking as a mental performance coach, we might spend an hour or two a week with a young athlete, but the parents are spending way more time than that. And so I was trying to figure out how I could help the parents to help their kids and help the parents to help themselves, really, because as a parent and as a coach, I know what it's like to be stressed out and nervous and want your son or daughter to do really well, and how we feel that pressure and ride the roller coaster with them a lot of times. So anyway, I put all these notes down and I shared these notes with a couple of friends, and they're like, this is a book. I was like, okay. So I put everything together. When we moved to Arizona, I found a publisher. Next thing you know, I had a book. So that's been really cool. It's not on the bestseller list or anything like that, but a lot of parents have reached out and really thankful for that. And I think now when I work with a mental performance young athlete, they'll find the book, they'll find my podcast, which I spun off from that too. And again, I think the support that the kids are getting at home, there's nothing more valuable. It's great to have a mental performance coach, but even when I do my mental performance coaching, especially with younger athletes, after a session, I send the parents a note and say, hey, here's what we talked about. Here's how I think you can help. And that's really important because I'm not going to see them again for a week. So that's a long-winded answer to your question.
No, I appreciate that. No, because
Yeah.
you provide them other resources where you have a book and you have your podcast. So, which is, and it's centered around really helping these parents, helping these athletes move forward. Now, what do you find with like the biggest mental barriers in athletes? Your experience work with athletes all these years. What do you see as some of the biggest mental challenges you consistently see that really where you help athletes work through?
The biggest one is confidence, just the highs and lows of confidence, and that's confidence is generally based on success that they're having, right? Confidence is high if success is, if things are going well, confidence is low if it's not going well. So that's the biggest hurdle, generally speaking. I've had clients also that just have lost the passion for the game, whatever game it is. It's mostly baseball, but not just baseball. So that's a big one. Like, how can we get the passion back? But usually that's tied with results as well. So sports and results really go together. Stuff's in the newspaper. Again, right now on social media, like every kid knows if they didn't get a hit or if they got 3 hits. And all their friends know and their teammates know and everybody knows. And it's when they do get 3 hits, they put it on Instagram. They're comparing themselves to other kids who they see on Instagram that just got 3 hits and had a home run. So it's just this endless thing. So not to get it all into what I do, but it's trying to tie their feelings and emotions and thoughts to other things other than just results. So we call it the process. What gives you the best chance of having fun and having success? What things do you control that? And it's no different in business or anything else in our podcasting world. What do I control that gives me the best chance of having a great podcast? I want to be prepared. I want to know about the person. I want to do my whatever it might be. And then the results are going to be what the results are going to be. The problem in sports, again, is and again, these kids, sorry about the sun here, but these kids it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So, and they're seeing it again on Instagram. So that's way harder than it was in our day. We could go out for 4 and a small group of people knew about it. It was pretty easy to bounce back. Yeah. So, but confidence, I think that's pretty much 90% of kind of, if I can get a kid to believe in themselves, it cleans up a lot of stuff. It cleans up a lot of stuff.
And you think it's not as much what they read about because there's things written, but it's all these reels and clips everywhere. And it's look at this player. He got a home run tonight in the game. Hey, he got 3 hits. See, he struck out 3 times. It's just constant, bombarded by it. Yeah. And then there was also the likes or comments. Yeah. The comments might not be real positive and some of them. And I appreciate you sharing that because I know that's so many athletes that they put their identity in results in their performance.
Yes.
And if performance goes well, hey, they're feeling good, good about themselves. It didn't go so well. Not a good day. Not a good night.
That's the highs and lows that we just it's good. There's going to be some of that. No question about it. I tell kids all the time, if you strike out, you can be mad. You just can't let it hang with you. How do you move on from that? How do you bounce back and go play the field, get on the fence and cheer on the next teammate? How do you come up your next time up? So there's other things that spin off confidence, resilience, all these other things to master, work ethic, and all these other things. But again, generally the main topic is confidence.
Share with the listener, moving on to your podcast. You've created 2 now. One was for parents and one was for athletes. Share us the reason why maybe started the first podcast, I think it was for parents. And then now I think just recently you started one for athletes.
Yeah. So again, the parent one was just another, really it started like my book I felt was a little bit, and I don't think this is true, but a little bit like here's how you should do it from one person. Like I'm telling you how to do things. That wasn't the intent and is not the intent, but I was trying to use my experience and my education to help parents. But what the podcast has really done has been like, these are parents, a lot of them that have been there, done that, or a lot of the interviews that I have. What would you say you wish you would have done different raising a young athlete? What did you do right? Let's make this easier for someone who has a 10-year-old basketball player right now. Here are the things that I did well, and here are the things I wish I would have done different. So that was the start of it, which was totally different than my book. I didn't have parent interviews in there. I did have athlete interviews, which is also something I do on the podcast, is I'll have some of the athletes come on and talk about what they felt like their parents did really well and what their parents could have maybe done better, right? So I've had everybody from, my kids have been on there, but college athletes, professional athletes, kids I coached, parents that I know. I've had parents and their kids on the podcast. So it's just been a great platform, again, to try to help the 10, whatever age athlete you have. And if you're not sure if you're doing everything you can do for you and for the athlete, there are some great resources on that podcast. And I do have mental performance coaches on there, all kinds of different people. So that was the first one. That was the idea. And then I started getting into those and having some mental performance coaches and having some athletes that have been there, done that. I was like, man, this would be a really good listen for an athlete too. So then I spun off this different podcast, which is called Get Your Mind podcast. And that one's for the athletes. And again, I'll have, sometimes it'll be just me. Sometimes it'll be a mental performance coach. Sometimes it'll be athletes that have been there, done that. Sometimes it's athletes in the middle of it right now, trying to process and work through things. So that's the second podcast. And both of them have been a blast. And to hear, again, I've talked to coaches and parents from all over the country in different sports. And so for parents to be able to hear that messaging has been fantastic.
I think parents and athletes are looking for that message. And for you, just to bring on a variety of guests from all different backgrounds to share on your podcast is impactful. So moving forward, because you have two kids that have played at the college level. One is actually playing at the college level right now. One I think is finished. How is that like now coaching, and not only just coaching athletes, also a father of sons you helped coach for a while that became college baseball players? How has perspective shaped the way you approach support for them, the competition, just parenting? And it's a lot. You're coaching them, and then now they both they played at the college level. One's still playing at the college level. And
yeah, the older one actually, so he graduated Michigan last year and is going to play independent baseball this year in Montana. So he's still trying to pursue that dream. It's been a challenge. And all the parents that have been on here that have been coaches and parents, or just parents, everybody can tell you it's a challenge, but a challenge there was nothing I would change. I shouldn't say nothing, but as far as being a parent and a coach, I wouldn't change that for the world. It was so many great experiences and great times with my two boys and with their friends, and I'm still coaching at a high school down here, and I don't have a pony in the show, so to say. I don't have a kid on the team, and I'm still loving it. But it was a challenge, and constantly navigating the right things to say, when to say them. What parents that have multiple kids can also tell you is that the kids are generally quite a bit different. So my older son, the way I would present things or when and where I could talk to him about things was totally different than my younger son. So that was a big adjustment. I was like, why isn't he as responsive as his older brother? He's not his older brother, right? So that took a little bit of figuring out and how to navigate that. And I'm still doing it with both of them. I still want them to know if they have things to talk about, whether it's the mental game or just anything, how they're feeling, that I'm still there for them on that. Obviously, it's not the day-to-day thing. Their coaches at college have the day-to-day stuff with them, so you have to pull back. When that happens, I actually talk to had on the Parenting Athletic Kid podcast, both an assistant coach from Michigan when my son was there. So that was pretty fun to talk to the coach that's coaching my kid. And then I also had the assistant coach. He was the assistant coach at Georgia Tech, where my younger son is. Now he's the head coach. So I had coaches from both colleges on the podcast, which was really cool. And I think that was for me, that was another, these are great people. It's so awesome that they've been turned over to these people. And that's not something I need to worry about at all. So some cool stuff in there, but definitely I could tell you plenty of stories where I messed it up, and hopefully plenty more where I think I did things the right way. I did have some great other parent dads, coaches. I'll tell you one quick story. So I was coaching, I think our kids were 13, and I was the head coach of this team. My main assistant coach was the head coach, baseball coach at Augsburg College. Now it's Augsburg University. So his son was on the team and my son. And we decided early on that if we had tough things to say to our kids, that he would say it to my kid and I would say it to his kid. And that was like the smartest thing we ever did, right? So to be able to have that and feel like the other dad loves your son, not quite as much as you do, but loves him a ton, and still they can have those talks. So we didn't have to. That was a super cool thing we did. And I had a lot of coaches that I worked with like that felt like they could say something to my kids and then I wouldn't have to. So it was great, just great experiences. But did I get it right all the time? Absolutely not. And again, that's the reason for writing the book and having this podcast. And not that even you could listen to all 97 podcasts that I've done on the parenting one, and you're still going to screw it up. So we're not perfect at it by any means, but hopefully some of the stuff we can do a little bit better.
I think that's a great way to do it, where at that moment, all that, you might not be able to connect with your son, but maybe another, like the other coach with you, can connect, and how you might be able to connect with their son. And
yeah,
I love that idea.
it was great. And it takes away the emotional piece of it, right? So as a parent coach, there's a lot of emotions charged in that.
Oh yeah.
And that's a big thing, to be able to step back, take some time, take a breath, and allow the other coach to manage that situation. It was great for the other coach, myself, and I promise you for our kids. And his kid now is in AAA for the Cubs. So he's become quite a great baseball player. And I'm not saying that's because I was the one talking to him instead of his dad, but I think it helped. We want these guys to remain passionate about it and see us as parents first. Even when we are coaching them, we're a parent first and foremost. And that situation allowed us to navigate that piece a little better.
I think of yourself as a podcaster, and you wanted to be a sports caster when you were younger. And then eventually years later led into using your interest in sportscasting as a podcaster.
Yep. I've thought about that. Who knew this podcasting wasn't a thing back then? Maybe I'll go into podcasting back in 1990. No, but yeah, I think about that every once in a while, how I've got back to having a microphone in front of me a little bit. So yeah,
that's great.
It's fun.
As we're wrapping this up, I got a few other questions for you, but what are some kind of influential people? I know you mentioned some already, kind of some shout outs to people from the past or the present time that really have had a significant impact on your life and kind of your career.
It's really been coaches. It really has. Not always. My coach at New Mexico State, shout out Coach Avent, who's now at North Carolina State. He's been at North Carolina State for 30 years. He's an amazing coach. He was just starting out in coaching when I was at New Mexico State, and he was killing himself as a coach and was really hard on players. And again, for a lot of players, that was great. But for me, I just wasn't emotionally ready for that. And so I learned a ton. At the time, I would have said, even coming out of it, man, that was rough. That was too hard. He shouldn't have coached that way. But what I realized is that's who he was, and it's served him really well. And he truly, so my son at Georgia Tech now, they just played against North Carolina State 3 weekends ago. And my wife and I went and watched the game, and I got to talk to Coach Avent, my coach at New Mexico State from 35 years ago, a little bit. And I was reminded about how much he loves his former players, his current players. He's just from that kind of old school brand of coaching. And again, it's great for a lot of people. It wasn't great for him, but I learned a ton from him and from great coaches. I mentioned Joe Ross at Normandale. I would say the person that's had the most impact on me is my dad. My dad was an amazing father. He played sports in college, but he was very hands off, as most parents were back in our day. Again, I think it's changed a lot, but he always just stayed. He was the most even keel person. And I don't mean that in a bad way. He just never got too high or too low. And so that's how I tried to parent my kids as much as possible. I didn't do as good of a job at that as he did, I would say, but he's my hero. He passed away in October. So spent quite a bit of time up in Minnesota around that time. But my stepmom was just down here this past weekend. So his wife, second wife. So we got to rekindle some memories on that. But definitely, he's the man, my dad. Yeah.
All right. Shout out to your dad
Thank you.
for all he's done and the impact he made on you and many others.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
for the men listening right now, maybe he's in a transition, feels stuck, or just kind of trying to figure things out. What's that next step? What would you say to encourage him to keep this is called Men Pursuing More, so pursuing more?
Wow, that is a heavy and great question. Where would I start with that? I think we're all, even where I am now, I ask myself, what's my purpose? What am I doing? What is what I'm doing important? So if you can really answer that question, it gets you out of bed every morning, right? So maybe it's someone that you're needing a change of career. You're needing, I don't know. There's a ton of different situations. I wouldn't want to get into all that, I think, but once you understand what your why is, right? Your why, your purpose, man, it's so much easier to take on challenges, to do things that maybe are a little hard, maybe you're a little fearful of, maybe you didn't quite have as much energy for it yesterday, but now you have that purpose behind you. I would say that is the number one thing that I've been try to be purposeful about is why am I doing this? And again, with the mental performance stuff, the cool thing with these young people is it clicks pretty fast. As we get older, it's a little harder, but that's just programming that we built up over the years. We see things a certain way. I would say another big thing I try to really, just me personally, is try to hold on to is curiosity. That's a word I write. I journal every morning, and I recommend that for men, women, kids, whoever. What is my purpose? You can do a lot of different things. What is my purpose? What is my purpose today? How am I going to show up today? I write these things.
I like that.
What am I grateful for? And then I have a right now, and it changes from time to time, but for me, I always want to be curious. Right now, it's these three things. I want to lead with love. So I write love is the first word I write. The second word I write is courage. And that is just to have the courage to put myself out there, try new things. I think as we get older, sometimes that can be a little hard. The courage to take on challenges, to do things that make me uncomfortable. So that's courage. And the last one is curiosity. And that's just, man, openness. Another thing I think we can, as we age, and even I see some young kids already closed off and think they have it figured out. And man, we just don't. So a certain level of curiosity about what the day is going to bring, about who I'm going to run into, about what I might do next, just keeps, for me, again, it keeps me more alive. Does that answer the question? I don't know.
Oh, that was impactful, what you said. And I like the idea. Some areas we forget to do is the journal, to write down your thoughts. And always, everybody hears the thing about the why. I always think of why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
What is the reason for it? Why? Why do you do what you do? And some people can't answer that.
Yeah.
They don't know what their purpose is. They're just saying, well, this kind of life. That season of life and all that. I understand. Some people just have some challenges. They're trying to work through things. And I think that's the importance of what you do as a mental performance coach or a mentor or coach to pour in others, because all of us need it.
Yeah.
We can't do it alone, but we
No
just
question.
see ourselves crash and burn. And we need to seek out advice and seek out others to really sew into us.
No
So
question. No
no,
question.
you answered that well, and I appreciate that. And
Thank you.
well, Travis, I appreciate your heart for athletes, your heart for parents, just your kind of passion you bring to this podcast. I know you bring that to all the athletes and parents you work with. I know you bring it to your podcast. And how can those out there how can they connect with you? So share with the listeners your podcast, where they can learn more about you, about your mental performance coach, and they might want to maybe seek you out as a mental performance coach.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. I'm on Instagram, MindRite Coach. I'm on X, MindRite Coach. My book is Parenting Athletic Kids. The one podcast is Parenting Athletic Kids, and that's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. The second one is for athletes. That's called Get Your Mind Podcast. That's also on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. You can check out my website, which is mindrighttraining.com, and pretty much everything, all the different Instagrams, and of course, all that kind of stuff is on there. It talks a little bit about me, my work with athletes. So those I don't think I missed anything. Thank you for allowing me to do that. And email me, mindrighttraining@gmail.com. If you have questions, just love to talk to people, love to be as useful in any way, shape, or form as I can. This is my passion, is helping people, I was a personal trainer for 30 years. So somewhere in there, I just decided I wanted to help people, whether it's adults, kids, in any way, shape, or form that I can. So appreciate you having me, Roger. It's been a lot of fun. And again, to take a little trip down memory lane was a lot of fun. So I appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate you, Travis. That's a wrap with Travis Rogers on Men Pursue More podcast.
Thanks, Roger.